Peace and love, creatives. Today I decided to take you on a trip to making a sketchbook a little bit more in depth. I figured I'd make my own watercolor sketchbook with Arches watercolor paper. I got a really good deal on some pads. So I figured I'd take one pad and turn it into a sketchbook. At first, I started folding the pages like I would write any other sketchbook I would start, and I realized that while folding it, it was causing the paper to rip in the background, and I'm guessing behind. I'm guessing it's because of like the sizing or whatever. I don't know the technical terms, but I think it's the sizing that did it. So what I started to do was I have this little apparatus that kind of like scores for me, and I just started scoring the paper before I folded it, and that solved the issue of my paper ripping. It definitely made it look a lot cleaner. So I scored all my papers, and for this particular sketchbook, I'm only going to have one page per signature. In signatures, you can have up to, well, as many pages as you want, as long as they fold over and they look nice. But this one's only going to have one page in each signature. And that's because if I want to paint like a full spread on the 2 pages, I can. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm getting the signatures ready to mark the spine of it so that I can sew the signatures together. There is a reason why I left one page a little open on one side, and I'll get to that in a minute. I don't use a ruler. I just use my thumb to measure from there to there, and that's how I get my measurement for the spine of the book. The first two measurements that I do, I use my thumb on one side and I mark it with a marker. I flip it over and I use my thumb the same way, and more or less I get the same amount of space on each side so it looks uniform enough. Then I go into the spine right in the middle and I score another line with the marker. And then from there I go in the middle and of that middle and score each side. And those are just my marks so that when I'm putting holes in the paper, I know more or less where I'm putting the holes. Now, I have a really cool bookbinding tool to put holes in for my papers when I make my signatures, but I honestly love using this eraser and this thumbtack. That's it. That's all I use. You can go out and buy some fancy stuff like I did, but I use an eraser and a thumbtack. It's a pretty big thumbtack, but it does great. It stops me going too far down. I don't ruin any of my table or anything like that, and it's nice and quick, and I love it. So right now I'm leaving one page open and kind of keeping all the rest nice and secure and together. And this just makes me feel a little bit more secure when I am sewing the signatures, that number one, I'm sewing them properly and they're all lined up. And number two, I'm not worried about my pages falling or getting all like discombobulated. They're all in one spot and it works for me. So here I'm trying to measure up the string that I'm going to use, which got tangled up, so I had to untangle it and then start measuring. The string I use is like embroidering string. I really like it. It's nice and thick, and I don't mind seeing the string in my sketchbooks. It's a sketchbook. I don't mind seeing it, and sometimes I even use like colorful string so that when I open up the pages it's colorful. But being that I'm doing one one page per signature, I figured white would be the best to put in this particular sketchbook. So now what I did was I counted how many signatures I had, and I'm counting my string out, the length of the spine on how many signatures I had. I believe it's 12 because it was 12 pages. So now I'm just going to put the thread in the needle and we're going to start sewing. I wanted to leave the whole entire video intact and not cut out too much so that you can see more or less my process for doing this. There's a tab on YouTube that you you can go into and kind of slow it down a little if you want, and there's always pause. You can always pause it. I didn't want to make the video too long because this process to make a sketchbook, it takes over a day, like with glue drying and all that, but just the process of putting the signatures together and all that, that takes at least 3 hours. So I can't, well, I can put 3 hours of bookmaking on YouTube, but I'm not going to do that. I won't do that. So earlier I had pulled too hard on my string and ended up ripping some of my paper. And when that happens, don't get too worried about it. I mean, you don't want to pull hard, especially from what I learned, especially with watercolor paper. Watercolor paper is very fragile in that state, and because of the creases already there, that tug just it was horrible. But what I did was I put a little bit of tape. I end up doing it one more time because, you know, one's just not enough. I ended up putting a little bit of tape to kind of like keep the string there. Once I glue the spine together and everything is nice and tight, I should not have an issue with that string moving anywhere. So here I kind of slow down a little bit to show you how I go in behind the thread, come out on the other side, and then I go right back into that hole that I just came out of. And all that's doing is securing the page to the other page just a little bit more. And it makes it look nice. It gives it like this little braided effect when you do it like this. I just love it. Usually I would leave the spine exposed, but it's a special day, so I'm gonna leave the little surprise for you. But this is definitely not gonna be an exposed spine, on top of the fact that I kind of ripped the first page when I was folding it. So yeah, it's kind of like a rinse and repeat kind of thing. I secure the pages with the clip. I take one page off from the other side, secure it with the other clip on the other side, and then I just continue over again and over. On the end of the signature, when you're doing that last thread, instead of going back into the loop, you switch to the next page and then you go into that hole and you go up and down, and it's a process. But I wanted to go a little bit more in depth. I guess maybe I need to just, you know what, in this video, if you guys in the comments below want me to like show a slower down, just like a process just of doing the signature and how I go about it, I'll go more in depth with it if you want me to. So just let me know in the comments if it's a video that you would want to see. I wouldn't make the whole sketchbook there, but I would put a little bit more detail of how I go about making each signature so that you can see it, kind of like a play-by-play kind of thing for the signatures. And like I said, if you want, you can just pause, slow it down, and try to figure it out from there. And I'll also leave a link, as I always do, for Sealemon. She is my inspiration for making sketchbooks. She is the person who has brought my sanity back, because I love making, like, sketchbooks is my like zen. It keeps me sane. I love it. So here I'm just showing you how I clamp my books together. I don't have like a book press or anything like that. So I just have two pieces of wood, two little husky clamps, and I clamp those bad boys with the sketchbook in it. And then I put glue on the spine. I let that dry, and we're moving now to the actual cover of the book. So the watercolor pad comes with a front cover and a back cover. And what I did was I took the back cover, which is a lot thicker and sturdier, and I'm using that to make my cover for my book. There wasn't enough for a spine, so I just took another piece of cardboard and made a spine for the book out of that. And now the reveal. Dun, dun, dun. Star Wars fabric. Yes, baby. May the 4th be with you. And we're going to have a Star Wars watercolor sketchbook, handmade. Yes, I'm all about it. So here I'm just measuring where more or less I want the fabric to be on the book cover, and I want to make sure that I have a good picture of, you know, of the pattern on my front and my back covers. I want it to look good, so that's all I'm doing here. And once I get that down, I kind of like I cut more fabric off, just to, you don't need excess of fabric, you're just gonna have bunches if you have too much fabric. So I'm just cutting it down so that there's no excess. And then once I cut it down, I'm going to paste. Oh, here, I'm sorry. Here I'm just marking a little bit around where the cover is, just in case it moves. I know where to put it once I'm done. Now I put glue on the first cover and flipped it over and stuck it onto the fabric, and that's where it's going to stay. That's where it's going to be. And I continue to do that for the rest of the cardboard. And once I'm done with that, I put glue around the corners of the whole entire sketchbook, just around the whole edge of the sketchbook. And here I'm just cutting the excess fabric off of the side at an angle, so that when I close it, there's not a bunch up in that corner right there. And to have a nice clean corner, I'm slowing it down so that you can see how I did it, because seeing is a lot easier than me explaining that. And then it'll stay right there, and then with a little bit of glue, it'll stay a little bit better. So that's what I did. I just kind of like put a little bit more glue in on the fabric, and I do that for the whole entire book. And I kind of like secured a little bit more with a little bit more glue. Now here I was gonna just put it without a nice front page cover, but I decided, you know what, I'm gonna make it fancy. So I got some cardstock and I put a nice little pattern cardstock on the front and back, and I folded them the way you're seeing me fold it now. And what that does, it kind of like gives you like your first page, like professional kind of look thing going on there. So that's what I did. And now I'm just gluing them on so that they're secure onto the book. And then once I have it secured to the book, I put more glue on the back of the paper, and I connect both. When connecting the covers, you have to be careful that you don't put the book, the signatures and, you know, the sheets all the way to the back of the spine, because then you'll have a sketchbook that won't open properly. So you want to make sure that you don't do that, because that happened to me many a times before I learned my lesson. It's been like an hour since I put this to cure or dry, whatever you want to call it, and it's not ready. This is going to be done and dry in like a day, but I just wanted to show you guys. I couldn't wait. So here it is. Oh my God, it looks so good. It looks so good. There's a little bit of chalk there, but that comes off with eraser. It'll be fine. I love it. It's so good. What do you guys think? Right there is the front, like the first page cover and the back page cover. Like that's the design that I decided to go with. You know, a little simple, not anything too crazy. I think it looks great. It looks great. It opens good. The spine is good. The pages look great. Now, when you get to this part, you want to open each and every page individually and kind of like just kind of get it ready to be opened. And you don't want to wait until it dries completely before you do this part. You just want the book to open and not rip while you're opening it on each page. So if you do this before the glue is completely dry, you'll have a better outcome than if you wait. So that's all I'm doing. I'm turning the page, giving it a nice rub, turning the page, giving it a nice rub, and I'll continue to do that all the way until the end of the sketchbook. And as you can see, this bad boy lays flat. So, I mean, I say this is a winner. I cannot wait to put some art up in this piece. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Peace and love. I almost didn't videotape this, so I'm just gonna show you how I get rid of the excess paper. Okay. So I'm just gonna go at a slant and cut the paper. And I already messed up. It was easier on the other side, but now I think I have it. It's sticking out a little bit. I'll fix it when I'm done. So I'm just gonna cut it, right? And then this part, I'm gonna cut it, but I'm gonna cut it just right against the watercolor page. And that's it. Now, this didn't come out too good. The first one came out a lot nicer, so I'm gonna just try to get it so that you... Yeah, that's better. There we go, nice and straight. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now this is the front of the book, and I like it. I think it looks good. Get that out of the way. Front of the book. When you open it to a nice little plaid pattern, and you can use both pages to paint on now. And the back, same thing. Ta-da! May the 4th be with you guys. Peace and love.